Hello, my name is Topher Logan. I'm the trombone instructor here at Central Connecticut State University in New Britain, Connecticut. And I'm going to play for you the CMEA 2015 Region Audition for Trombone piece. It is Etude number 15 from the Rochu Melodious Etudes. So that was Etude number 15 from the volume 1 of 120 Melodious Etudes by Bordoni, as transcribed by Rochu. They're known as Rochu Etudes, but they were in fact written by Marco Bordoni. Johannes Rochu was principal trombone of the Boston Symphony Orchestra in the 1920s when he transcribed and published this set of vocalises to be used as etudes for trombonists to work on consistency of pitch and tone, lyrical playing, and establishing a smooth, connected slide technique that is coordinated with legato, tongue, and articulations. And also for students to practice melodic phrasing. The original pieces were vocalises written by the 19th century Italian tenor and vocal teacher Marco Bordoni for students to establish consistent tone and pitch while singing. And the Bordoni melodies were popular among vocal students and teachers throughout the 19th century, and eventually were co-opted by other instrumentalists, particularly brass players, and among those brass players, particularly the trombone. It lends itself very well to lyrical trombone playing. So when playing this, or any other Rochu etudes, it's a really good idea to keep in mind that it was originally intended to be sung. And that is a good way to approach playing it. Play it like you would sing it or like you would want it to be sung. So as I go through some of the specifics of interpretation and approach to this piece, I'll be referring to measure numbers. So if you haven't already, you might take a moment to write in the measure numbers of the piece in your copy of the music. So to start with, The tempo marking, like many, is somewhat arbitrary. So Bordoni's tempo is moderato, and 104 beats per minute does fall within that, but don't feel as though you have to play this at exactly 100 beats per minute, 104 beats per minute metronomically throughout. It's just a suggestion. So whatever tempo you choose, anywhere between 92 and 116 would be appropriate. You're going to naturally include a certain amount of rubato or give and take of the time, so long as you don't consistently rush or drag throughout phrases, and so long as you play musically and convincingly. That is what's most important. So play the phrases. The given phrase markings in the piece do a pretty good job of showing where to start and end the smaller phrases, and a legato tongue should be used throughout the piece. Take advantage of the regular 4 to 8 bar phrase structure and make antecedent and consequent phrases from those where appropriate. For example, measures 5 through 8 are a consequent or answer phrase to measures 1 through 4. And those 8 bars taken together form the antecedent to the following bars 9 through 16, 8-bar phrase. A word about going up to the G above the staff, for example, in measure 6 and elsewhere in the piece. First, remember that that note will be flat on your horn, so you'll want to play it in a sharp second position if you're going to play it in second. Also, approach that note as though you're going to continue the E flat arpeggio up to the high B flat, so with a fast airstream throughout the end of the note so that it doesn't clip or stall out at the end. Measure 16, not 116. Measure 16 has a fermata in it and should be approached with a little retard in the notes that precede it. When you get to the dotted quarters in measure 30 and 31, and the running eighth notes that follow and the several bars that follow, be sure to subdivide the beat so as not to rush those notes. Many players make the dotted quarters and even the half notes a little too short. The third section, that begins in measure 37, moves to C minor and can have a sense of urgency to it, but again, don't rush. If you pull ahead through those eighth notes, be sure to pull back again in measures 42 and 43. The character, again, of the piece changes a little bit in measure 46 when it goes from C minor to A flat major. Here, be sure not to clip the last eighth notes of the bars in bars 49 and 51. To avoid that clipping, just maybe decrescendo a little bit on the half note that precedes the eighth note and make the eighth notes a little bit longer. A word about the grace notes. Don't make too big a deal out of the grace notes. Instead, lean on the landing note and make the grace note light and quick and, well, graceful. One of the big questions of interpretation in this etude is in measure 63 through 66. So this question of to breathe or not to breathe between the D and the E flat in measure 64 going into 65. Some players really tank up in the phrase preceding that and want to continue the phrase from the D right into the E flat. I choose to breathe there. However you do it, just do it convincingly. It's harder to maintain the breath, and finding a good place to breathe after that is sometimes difficult. That's why I choose to breathe as the phrase markings are indicated in the international edition that we're using. So that's between the D and the E flat. But if you do breathe there, you'll want to crescendo all the way to the end of the D and approach the E flat as a continuation of that crescendo, because that is the high point of that phrase. In bar 68, there's the indication of a piacere, right? This is an Italian word. It's actually a food word, like a lot of the great Italian words. It means to taste, whatever your taste is, to your taste. So it's, when you order a steak in Italy, on the menu it'll say a piacere, so however you want it prepared. And so to your taste, in this case, simply means however you want to play that phrase. So however long you want that fermata to be in bar 68, and however you want to approach those 3/8 notes as it goes into the return of the melody in bar 69. Just play it convincingly and musically, and there is no wrong way to do it. And then from there to the end is a recap of the melody. Again, you want to subdivide throughout the dotted eighth note, or dotted quarters, or the quarter notes that are tied to eighth notes in bars 77 and 79, and the half notes in the line above that. And when you get to the rallentando, just take your time and end those last 4 bars or so with a sort of a musical larger retard. The rallentando simply means a larger, bigger retard approaching the end. The ending notes and some of the longer notes are a good place to use vibrato if you have a vibrato technique, and that's a good way to show off some musicality. Don't spend too much time doing too much vibrato or rubato, that is too much give and take of the time. Always make sure that the phrases maintain whatever your natural tempo is going to be without too much rubato, but don't again feel as though you have to play this strictly metronomically. And so that's the piece for the CMEA 2015 region audition for trombone, and best of luck to you as you prepare for the auditions.